we're going to get to our game of the day, which is, of course, the College Football National Championship. And then there were two. The only game we are looking at today because the CFP Championship deserves all of our attention, obviously. And we're going to have some fun here, breaking down these lines with a few prop bets sprinkled in. So here we go. The only thing we're missing right now is some confetti poppers. All right, number one, Alabama taking on number 3, Georgia, which is weird to say since the Bulldogs were ranked first for most of the season. It all happens tonight live from Indianapolis, and we're going to break it down piece by piece, starting with that spread. But before we get to the spread, I'm going to hit you with a little few fun facts as it pertains to these two teams. Are you ready, Arky?
Hit me.
The last time the Georgia Bulldogs have beat Nick Saban and company, excuse me, it was September 22nd, 2007 in a 26-23 final 14 years ago. They have played each other 7 times, in which Alabama has come out on top every time since that game. The last 2 times they played one another, which was October 17th, 2020, and this past SEC championship game on December 4th. The final score in both those games was 41-24. Kind of weird. These two schools have met a total of 71 times, with Alabama leading all-time 42-25-4. Their very first meeting dates back all the way to 1895. And do you know who won that one, Arky?
I'm guessing Bama?
It was Georgia over the Crimson Tide. 36. Wow. I know.
I may have to change my pick.
They wouldn't meet again until 1901, where Georgia also got the win. The last time the Bulldogs won the Natty was in 1980, and Bama has won 7 since that, including just last year. And now back to 2022, where clearly things have changed, and tonight we will find out if Georgia will be able to finally get over the hump and take down their Goliath, that is Bama, for the first time in 7 meetings. As for the spread, as always, these lines are according to FanDuel Sportsbook. Georgia is the favorite, sitting at -2.5 right now. Bold of Vegas, very bold. Now, Arky, I know we briefly discussed the game last week where we both were Team Nick Saban, but what will you be doing as far as the spread in tonight's national championship game?
It's easy for me. Like, it's Alabama plus 2.5, and I'm probably going to play the money line anyway. Alabama doesn't lose games like this to teams like Georgia. Now, Alabama has lost national championships before. They've lost them to really dynamic running quarterbacks. And they've lost to Clemson and Ohio State in games like this in the college football playoff. But not to a guy like Stetson Bennett. And not to an offense that's built like Georgia's offense is built. And as strong as that defense has been for Georgia this entire season, we saw these two teams 2 games ago. Yep. We saw Georgia just like they did a year and a half or the year before when Georgia and Alabama played. We see Georgia take leads on Alabama. We just haven't seen them be able to close those games. And until you show me something different, I'm going Team Nick Saban. Alabama, as an underdog, which is pretty rare under Nick Saban, when they're a single-digit underdog, I think it is, which they are right now, 2.5, just like they were 7 underdog in the SEC championship game. Alabama's won those games by double digits the 3 times that's happened. Alabama just has everything going for it. They have the best offensive player in the country, the best defensive player in the country. They have the most strong and consistent coaching staff, top to bottom in the country. You want to tell me Georgia's going to change up what they do in these last 11 days to be able to beat Alabama when they got crushed after going up 10-0 in the SEC title game? I don't buy it. Give me Alabama plus 2.5.
All right, I'm right there with you. If you couldn't tell by my sweater today, is this crimson, do you think? It's kind of like a wine color.
It's more crimson than it should be.
Okay. No bias at all here. So yes, I will also be taking Bama at plus 2.5 because until Nick Saban and his players, of course, prove me otherwise, especially against Georgia, I just can't go against them. And I wouldn't feel smart going against them either. We have to give credit where credit is due, though. These are 2 teams who have been highly efficient against the spread this season. They both covered in their semifinal games. Georgia is 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 bowl games / playoff games, while Alabama is 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 playoff games and 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 when going in as underdogs. How about that? Alabama has covered the spread their last 2 meetings with the Bulldogs. And here's the real kicker. The underdog in this Georgia versus Bama matchup is 7-1 in their last 8 meetings. So put that in your back pocket.
Well, let me piggyback this. The national championship games, this will be the 8th one. In the previous 7, the favorites are just 2-5 against the spread. So yeah,
wow.
Everything's leaning toward don't take Georgia, no matter what some of these quote unquote experts are telling you.
Yes, so we've seen all we need to see and heard all we need to hear to know that we'll be taking Bama each at plus 2.5. That is our final answer. Moving right along. All right, looking at that total, the total for tonight's championship game is currently sitting at 52.5. Arky, what do you recommend for those betting the total tonight?
So this is a tricky one. Obviously, we've seen how these two teams played before, and Alabama and Georgia clearly covered in the SEC championship game. But if you want to look at the history of the national championship game, you would think with obviously a little bit of time to prepare for this game, which is 10 days compared to a normal week, that you would see a few more unders in the championship game, but that's actually not the case. In the championship games in the college football playoff era, the overs are 6-1. In fact, the last time an under hit was the first college football playoff championship, which was Florida State and Oregon, and that's only because that total was 72.5, and they still scored 62 in that game.
Crazy.
So, for some reason, the national championship game still gets a whole bunch of points. Now, sometimes it's a lot more one than the other, but usually you're getting the over here, and that's why I sort of lean this over. 52.5 is a tricky number to me because of how good both these two defenses are, but these two teams can kind of get loose on each other with some explosive playmakers who we'll talk about later in the show with some of our prop bets. And I think when you look at a really healthy Alabama team and a pretty healthy Georgia team, I think you're going to leave all things on the line for the national championship game itself. And I don't think you see a ton of defense if you can help it in this game. So you may not want to take the first quarter over, but I think in the game itself, the 52.5, I'm going to lean over.
Yeah, I think all signs point to this total going over. After all, it has hit in 4 of Bama's last 5 national championship games. And fun fact, in Kirby Smart and Nick Saban's 4 meetings, only one of those games went under this total of 52. The other 3 averaged around 64 points per game. So keep that in mind. And for what it's worth, in their last meeting, the total did hit 65. As far as the season, Georgia has seen this combined total in 6 of 14 games this season, while Bama has hit this number in 10 of their games. As far as the past title games, the total has exceeded this number of 52.5 points in 8 of the last 10, including the last 3 straight. So while I would love to be different and take the under, which I'm incredibly tempted to do a little bit, I just don't think that's a risk I'm willing to take tonight, considering the stats are so in favor of the over of 52.5. So right there with you.